We're good.
All right, Melissa and Jeff, thank you for coming. I appreciate you taking the time to come with us tonight and do this entrevista that we're going to do. I want to interview you because I just heard your testimony for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and you guys thought that was amazing for me to hear. And so I knew that I wanted to share it with my young people because I know that we're going through a very difficult time in the church where a lot of our young people are struggling with the identity of the church. And, you know, for me, some of them are leaving while you're coming in. So something has to be here that brought you here, okay? And I want to start all the way at the end because what happens at the end of your story is really what intrigued me to know the rest of your story. All right, so I'm going to go a little bit towards the end right now. I have pictures, so this will help us tell the story. This is Jeff and Melissa. How many years ago?
That has to be about
3. No.
like 5 years ago.
Okay.
5 years.
So this is about 5 years ago, and you guys, can you tell me a little bit about what this picture would be going on here?
This picture represents our party life.
This is actually one of many. This is nothing. This is what we're cooling down more or less.
So it represents us just thinking that we were living the life with our friends, doing what was cool, and as you can see, drinking and partying away.
All right. Now, to me, what's most impactful is what happens a couple of years after that. Since this was 5 years ago, this is another picture 2.5 years ago. And this is the two of you getting baptized. Now, what's so impressed me the most is, at this point in your life, was your family Seventh-day Adventist, your immediate family?
I only had, at that time, one family member who was Adventist.
So you had one family member, and Jeff, you had?
0.
Okay. So you didn't have any neighbors or Seventh-day Adventists, you didn't have a coworker that was an Adventist that was bringing you tracts, everything?
I've never heard of Seventh-day Adventists.
You had never heard of Seventh-day Adventists. Okay. Alright, so doesn't that intrigue you? Right? A person who's coming that didn't know Seventh-day Adventist message and ended up in the Seventh-day Adventist message, that to me, I always love to know. So we're going to take it all the way back to the beginning. And we're going to start with Jeff. Alright, so I know, Jeff, that you were raised, beautiful little picture of you when you were 3, that you were raised Catholic Pentecostal, okay? But I want to read a quote because based on what we spoke about, your view of God, you knew that there was a God, not really because of the religious upbringing, but I want to read this quote and you tell me what it means to you, okay? This is from a devotional that actually you had sent to us, and it says, have you ever wondered how everything in the world began? Most boys and girls do at some other time. Those beautiful flowers in your garden, for instance, the sweet peas, the snapdragons, the pansies and asters, where did they come from? Seeds, you say, true, but where did the seeds come from? How did that impact you growing up?
So, can I elaborate?
Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, that passage is from a story that I was reading to my son a couple of days ago, which actually, on the day that we were setting this up, which was a couple of weeks ago, I had told the parents that I felt this exact way. And it just so happens that days later, I was reading this book and I opened it. And to my son, I was reading it before his bedtime. And I found that, so it was like, wow. So what comes to mind when I hear this is the fact that even when you're at a very young age, I think the Lord, when he was 12 years old, that's when he found out that he was the Messiah. And he started walking from there on to strive to save everyone. And when I hear this, it blows me away because God, from a very young age, has been calling each and every one of us. But it's up to us to, come to His feet.
So you were born and raised in the Dominican Republic. And then at the age of 14, there was a pivotal shift in your life. You came to the United States, right, at the age of 14. and you were separated from your mother because your mother was the one that would take you to church. How did that separation impact your religious experience at that point?
So as you said, my dad and my mom. My mom and my dad were Catholics, and then all of a sudden, my mom started going to church with one of my aunts that is Pentecostal, and from there on, everything changed. So now we're Pentecostals, not Catholics. And after that, when I was 14, so many things went on all throughout that era in my life until the age of 14. And we came to the United States. We were 5. I had my little sister, my middle brother, myself, my mom, and my dad. But when we came to the United States, my dad stood behind, and the first thing that he told me was, I'm not going with you guys, but I give you the authority to be the man of the house wherever you go. So now I had this responsibility that I had to take care of my mom, my brother, and my little sister. And it was, in a way, I felt like it was freedom because I was going to church, but I didn't know why I was going to church. It was more of a tradition. You go to church. My parents, that I can remember, they never really opened the Bible with me and my brothers, but we always sang, songs. And when we went to church, then you saw the text or opened the Bible and things like that. But it was not a constant thing inside of the house where I was reading the Bible or anything like that. So at that age, I felt freedom because it was like, oh, no longer I have to abide by anybody else's rules. Because now, when we got to the United States, my mom, she went to one area. She went to my grandma's house. I went to one of my uncle's house. My brother went to someone else's house, and my little sister still with my mom for a little bit. So we all got separated to different houses. And as you can tell, it was easier for me not to go to church because the people I was living with, they didn't go to church. And on top of that, a lot of them were Catholics.
Okay, so at that time you stopped going to church?
Yeah, altogether.
Now, how was your emotional state though, between in that period of high school? Even though you stopped going to church, did you feel happy during that time? How did you feel as a young person?
The best way that I could explain it is through the Bible. I felt like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But coming to a new country where the culture is different and the language is different. So I felt off in a sense that I didn't know what was going on around me because I didn't know English. And then everyone was doing things that I wasn't used to. So it was more or less of a shock. I actually got a little depressed because I missed my friends back in the Dominican Republic. But I saw the potential and the freedom that it brought into my life. So it was like a bittersweet
emotional roller coaster. Yeah, like many teenagers go through, I think all of us go through an emotional roller coaster, especially at that age to have such a big shock happen to you in your life. Now, there was a time though in high school that you say a seed was planted by God. Just tell us a little bit about that seed, that friend that impacted your life while you were here in the United States.
So, from the age that I was 15, which I was 14 when I came here, but that same month I was turning 15. Now we fast forward to, I want to say, to the age I was 16 and a half or so. I had moved to another, for example, Kissimmee, Orlando. I moved to another area, and I was living with another uncle of mine because my brother was actually not doing well where he was. So they ended up switching us to see if he would do better with the people I was with. So I had to go to a different school, and I remember going to that school as a new person. Once again, you feel off, but at that time I was more or less speaking a little bit of English. And I remember in class, the teacher had us sit in a circle, and since I was still trying to learn English, I sat. We were supposed to sit according to our month birth. So I was born in February, and I sat all the way by June or December or something like that. So when they were saying, "Also, tell me when is your date of birth and what brings you to the school," he's he's like, "Oh, you're not supposed to be here. You dummy. You're supposed to be on this side." So everybody was laughing, and then my friend was like, "Well, that friend that she's talking about came up to me. He's like, hey, here, you don't speak English." And he started to talk to me, and then he became my friend. We started hanging out, and then I found out that he was Pentecostal. So from there on, I'm like, man, I'm trying to get away from these people, and here they are, chasing me around. So he used to tell me about the Lord all the time and guide me in the path of righteousness. But once again, I didn't want anything to do with church because I grew up from, as you can tell, from as long as I can remember in church. And now I actually was working, was paying my own bills, had everything that I could think of, a job and all that stuff. And he's telling me about God. So I felt like he was trying to get me back into that stage of closeness, and you can't do this, you can't do that type of thing. So from there on, he started speaking to me about God, and I just kept telling him, leave me alone, I don't want to hear it. I'm trying to do my own life, my own thing, that nobody tells me what to do, and so on and so forth.
I love the testimony of your friend, because I think it speaks to us too, as young people, that we can talk to our friends about God even though we get rejected.
Even if they don't listen, trust me, one day.
Look at his testimony. That young kid who talked to him about God now has made an impact in his life. So us as young people, we have a beautiful message. So don't feel bad or ashamed to share that message. I know I've heard Mikey's testimony, and he's very open in sharing in school. So it's something that we should also do as well, because you never know what kind of impact you can have on someone's life, even though you get rejected. Now, listen. We turn to you. All right. So tell us about your upbringing. You did not grow up in a religious household, correct? So what was your viewpoint on God and religion?
Growing up, I grew up as a Catholic, but not a die-hard Catholic, I would want to say. It was more like you believe in God, you do good, you don't do bad things, and that's all that matters. I was raised in a home where both of my parents were together. Both of my parents had very good habits, never bothered anyone, so I figured that's just what life was. There was a God, but I didn't have to do anything for him, and he didn't really have to do anything for me.
Okay, so you probably didn't go through that emptiness that Jeff went through, but what fear did you have? Did you have a fear though? Because even though you were okay with your life, did you ever think about the future?
I did. I remember I'm an only child, so I remember having a lot of thoughts on my alone times. And one of the biggest fears and one of the many questions that I used to ask myself was, what will happen when I die? Or why do we all have to die? Why be born and then have to die? So that was something that was always repeated in my mind over and over again.
Now you were born in.
I was born in Dominican Republic as well, but I came here to the United States when I was only 2 years old.
2 years old, okay. And then Jeff, you were in Rhode Island, right? After Dominican Republic, you moved to Rhode Island.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're going to fast forward then to around the age of 20, okay? Because at this point, something pivotal happened in your life. Jeff, tell us about what happened when you were 20 and who this is a picture of.
So fast forward to when I was 20 years old. I was, once again, still living a life of freedom in the world, not caring about God. And it just so happens that after so many tries that my friend tried to bring me into church, I actually went a couple times with him. I could count them with my hands, it wasn't too many times, but he was actually the son of a diaconate in church. So I had the style, now I'm accustomed to the style of the United States, or at that time in 2000, I want to say it was 2008, 2006-ish, people were wearing braids, long shirts, baggy pants, Nikes and Air Maxes and all that kind of stuff. And I had it all. I had earrings, all that kind of stuff. So I remember telling my friend, if I would ever go to church with you, I'll go how I am. I'm not gonna go and buy shirts to go to church and whatnot. So since he was the son of a diaconate, it was like more or less, even though I was going to church, everything was okay because I was with them. So I went a couple times, and then all of a sudden, since going through everything I went through, all of a sudden my grandma passed away after me finally getting into a beautiful relationship with her, where I felt like I was understanding her, and because she was actually the one that brought us to the United States, so I owed her a lot. And I know from my part, I didn't really like going to my grandma's house. She was bored, so it was kind of like, okay, here you are, all right, give me the food that you're gonna give me, and I'll go type of thing. But eventually, I got into a stage where I was actually spending time with her and enjoying every moment. And all of a sudden, she passed away. She had a stroke, and no one was at home when that happened. So she was actually cooking for one of my uncles, and her entire apartment just lit up in smoke. And she actually ended up getting pneumonia too on top of the stroke. So yeah, by the time that I found her, it was too late. I went into a really deep depression because now here I finally find, after so many years, a way of happiness where it's like you're loving your family and doing what you're supposed to do. And now she passed away. She was actually dear to my heart. And to this day, when I see her pictures, I tear up. So I ended up wanting to start over. I was talking to one of my aunts that had moved here to Florida, and she was telling me, hey, you should move over here, start something new. That's what you want to do. Florida is beautiful, no snow, and so on and so forth. Yeah, a lot of sunshine. There's AC everywhere you go. So I ended up coming here and started from scratch. I had to get a new job, get a new apartment, start a new life altogether.
Now, we're going to get to a point where you guys met, because you met in Florida, when you were in Florida. And I'm going to ask you, Melissa, because Jack went through what you had called dark ages, the dark ages, where he was in a deep depression. Okay, so tell me a little bit about what it's like, what he was like, what it's like to be with someone who has such an emptiness and depression in their lives.
Okay, so here I was meeting this young man in the picture, and like I mentioned earlier, I grew up in a home where everything was happy. I came from a family with no problems whatsoever. My life, as much as I thought it was fine. And I fell in love, basically, you would say, with him. But everything happened really fast when we met, and just getting to know each other. It was a little bit of a shock to me, because he came from an upbringing that was so tough that I wanted to sympathize with him a lot. So most of the beginning of our relationship consisted of him going through his dark ages, like what I called it, him being very depressed, and me not knowing what to do. I never met anyone with depression like that, and now it's not just a friend, now it's someone that I'm with. Now it's my boyfriend. And a lot of it was me crying, and it was more of me crying for him, because there was nothing that I could do to help him, and I was constantly being pushed away and rejected, which was also something that I was never used to. So it was very bad for him, but as well as for me.
Go ahead.
So one of the other reasons too why I was very depressed, it was because when I grew up in a really tough household, my upbringing. So my parents were, Spanish people, especially Dominicans. Very abusive in the sense that they have to talk to you more than twice, verbally abusive, physically, and all that kind of stuff. And I felt a lot of times humiliated because they used to actually hit us in front of people, and people used to laugh at us and things like that. So I grew up. That's why when I came to this country, I felt free because I had the opportunity to push away. So I went through a lot of moments of depression because of that. You being a child growing up, and you're being verbally abused by your parents and physically abused, and also your friends, they laugh at you. There's all this kind of stuff. So when I came here, after all of that, and I was starting to fix my life, that's when I actually started. That depression was more or less going away because before coming here as well, I was engaged to another person, and I was actually running away from that relationship because something that happened between us. So I just would say that she wasn't as faithful as I thought. So I just wanted to start over. That's why I wanted to start over. And so when my grandma passed away, then that just made it worse. So I was going through the depression from when I was a child. It was clearing up. Went through that with my partner at that time, and I was like, you know what, whatever, I'll do my own thing, single type of thing.
His life was full of disappointments.
Yeah. So, and then when I came here, that's when she met that super dark, very empty, didn't care about anything Jeff, if that makes sense.
Poor spirit.
So I'm actually faking it. That smile.
Is it fake smile?
Yeah, that's one of my fake smiles. Because you can tell she actually, what is it that you used to say that you lived with me?
Oh, I used to say that I was in a relationship with the devil. That's how I viewed him. That picture, that's what my family members saw, and I have a cousin here that he can be a witness to. Family members would see this, and then once everything was over, his happy face was done away with, and then it'd be a different side of him. It was very bad.
It's just basically I learned to push away feelings. Even if I met someone, I just faked a relationship with them because I know that one moment or later they will do something where I will feel hurt. So I just learned to push away feelings, and I walked around numb, if that makes sense.
It's really honestly incredible for me to hear that, just knowing you now, where you came from. Because I just, God has done such an amazing transformation in your life that I don't even know that side. But it's very interesting to hear, and thank you for being so open about that as well. But while you were speaking, I just thought of this verse because it's one of my favorite verses in Matthew 5:1 in the Sermon on the Mount. Yeah, blessed is the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So you were living in a moment that you were empty and you were poor in spirit, and God wanted to fill you with His Spirit.
But I was running away.
You were running away, but He was chasing after you because it's the most amazing word. So something happened in 2014, which then we come into this very critical moment, because in 2014 something happened to the both of you, where we say God spoke to you. Okay, so Melissa, can you start with your experience at the doctor's office?
So this is fast forward to, we're still living in the dark ages, but it's starting to get a little bit better.
This was what, like
2014.
3 years after.
Yeah. And I went to the doctor one day, and I remember being disappointed because every time I would go to the doctor, I would never actually meet the doctor, and I only met the nurse practitioner. But now I know that God had a reason for that. I sat down, and as the nurse practitioner was asking me my medical history, she asked me, which to myself I thought it was a little weird for them to ask me my religious preference at the doctor. And I told her I don't have one, and she said, well, do you believe in God? And I said, yeah. And then she said something that just sparked a flame in my brain. She said, well, how can you believe in God and not have a relationship with Him? And after that, she started ministering onto me. She explained to me who Jesus was. And as much as she could, being at a doctor's appointment, and she asked me if I wanted to accept the Lord as Jesus as my Lord and Savior? And I said yes. I didn't know what I was doing, but I said yes because I knew that it was the right thing to do and I knew that I wanted to. So we prayed, and she did all of this during my appointment. So we prayed, and I left out of there, and I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything different, but I knew that something crazy had just happened to my life. I knew that a change was about to take place later on. So that's what happened at the doctor.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. Because sometimes we think that we don't want to be so bold, we want to leave people alone. But I mean, that sparked something in you that really made you question what you really believe. So,
and let me just say, she was very bold. She was very bold about the way that she spoke about God. Now that I can remember her, she was not. She knew that her purpose was to speak to me about it. I can tell just by reliving that moment. She knew that that was what she had to do.
Alright, Jen. So during this same time frame, I'm not sure if it was a couple months earlier or after that, you picked up a devotional and you started to read it. What was the devotional? I just had to have you say the name of it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm just trying to think. I remember I was seeking also after getting here to Florida. Like I said before, I knew that there was a God, but I just didn't have a relationship with Him, nor did not know how to start or how to go about it. And I remember at work, at that time I had a new job. And at work there was this lady too that she was very happy all the time. And she was older than me. So she kind of used to call me her son. And I remember she always had a positive attitude, and there was really nothing negative about her. And even when because I actually used to work with her in a room. I used to do insurance verification at that time. So I had my desk, she had her desk, and there was someone else that didn't believe anything in God. I semi knew that there was a God, but I didn't care for it. And then there was that person that just was God all the way. And I remember sometimes I would talk about certain things, and then she would try to bring positivity into my life or conversations. And then all of a sudden one day I remember, I don't know if it was Christmas or something like that, she ended up giving me a devotional. And that devotional actually got me hyped, as we say, in a sense, because it was actually a Joel Osteen devotional. At that time, I didn't know who Joel Osteen was, but I just knew that she told me, read it every day when you wake up. And it has like the months and days and all that stuff where you need to start. So I felt like, hey, that's where I got to start. I want what she has.
Baby steps.
Baby steps, exactly. I want what she has because she's always happy. And more or less, happiness is what we all want, believe it or not, or like it or not. So every so often, I would wake up, open this little book, and I remember, wow, that's awesome. That's exactly how I feel today. And I would just have this mood where it was so positive, but then every so often throughout your day, something happens. And now that I'm a Christian, I know how to handle it. You pray and you ask God to help you help that person or whatever the situation is. But at that time, I was like, man, I don't want nothing. You go back to be rebellious or whatnot. So yeah.
You started to go
seek God, and it was no coincidence that certain people were in our lives and they were inspiring us, and we were seeing their attitude towards truth and their happiness and relationship with the Lord. So we decided to go to this church nearby. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just knew that it was big and it was nice, so let's walk in. Yeah, and not saying that you should go to every church that is big and nice, because you'd be surprised. But anyways, so we walked into this church and we're like, wow, this is, because I come from a church,
they don't look like that.
No, it's very, very strict, very Hitler-like. This was like, as soon as I walked in, I said, man, this is awesome. I feel good here, because it's more, as you can tell, it's more as come once you are type of church. So when we got to this church, I remember that we liked it. The service was awesome. When the pastor, he would talk, words would just splash you and smack you in the face because I didn't know anything about the Bible. So hearing it from the book is like, how is it that that's in the Bible and it's actually what I need? So you want to elaborate a little bit?
So we kept going, but little by little that flame that we had started to die out, and we started we still kept attending, but then there was an incident that happened with the
we
pastor.
actually gave our life to Christ at that time.
Yeah, we did.
But at that church, we actually said, you know what, this is it. We need some of this and that.
And then an incident happened at the church. I don't know if you guys heard about the pastor shooting an employee.
Everyone remembers that?
Yeah,
Yeah, the shooting.
that was while we were going, so another disappointment to my to
So now we were like, okay, so why is a pastor with a gun inside of the church? Like that's.
You know what I was thinking about today? I was like, you know what? That probably happened because God probably jumped in Melissa out of that church.
Oh yeah. Oh, he has
No,
a way to work everything out.
No, just for you two.
Yeah, so we ended up leaving the church, and now we were from scratch. We didn't know what to do. We were Christians, non-denominational, and I still didn't have a Bible or knew how to continue to have that relationship with the Lord.
Okay. So you fell back into depression, correct?
Yeah, many more things kept happening. I started getting into car accidents. She ended up getting into a couple too as well, and I just started questioning the point of life. I had this feeling prior from when I was living in rebellious mode when I was in my teens, and I went through another depression because it's like, see, I give God the opportunity to do His thing in my life, and then this happens. So that was a really bad thing for me at that time because it was like, okay, this is good, and all of a sudden you hear this, so it's like, do I really want to trust my life with that person?
Right. So another pivotal moment happened. After all of that, you went through depression again, and then there was this night. That was the night, the changing point.
So that's my real face. Well, at that time, that was my real, not fake face.
Yes.
This was the night. So, Melissa, tell us about this night. It was an important anniversary.
This was a family party, a New Year's Eve party, where everyone and every single family member was there, and this was just one of his switch moments. We were sitting together, and then I remember him being upset out of nowhere, and he started to drink, and he got really drunk, and I had a cousin who was there as well. His name is Manny. He's over here in the audience. And I remember seeing them afar, speaking in a corner, but I didn't know what it was because at this time he was so upset with me. And I don't know why, but he was very upset with me, didn't want anything to do with me the whole night. And I ended up grabbing him, and we ended up going home and got into a really, really, really ugly fight. I even thought about staying in a hotel that night, and it was just really bad. Needless to say, that was one of the most depressing days I had ever gone through.
But actually, that night,
That night?
I remember, as she stated, I was out of my mind. I was drinking a lot, and at that time, after leaving that church Living Water, I started looking into Illuminati's and all that kind of stuff, conspiracy theories, and I remember I was feeling myself with all these things, and that's why more or less my depression was like coming back full blown. And I started questioning, man, so if there are so many things that are going around where people are trying to kill us for no reason, because I haven't done anything to them, why would they want to kill me type of thing? I started talking to her cousin Manny, and
he was a Seventh-day Adventist at the time.
Yeah.
Well, he still is, but he was Seventh-day Adventist, my only family member.
Yeah. And I remember just telling him, talking to him, like, hey man, you know what? I actually need a change in my life. You know, I need something new, I need something to believe in. Because prior to this, or I think at the same time, I was searching around for other religions because I had already come out of that incident. So I started looking into Buddhism, Rastafarianism, like a whole bunch of crazy stuff that was not even Christ. And I tried looking into what they were all about, but it's like when you start it and you start looking into it, you're like, oh, this seems off, I don't think that. And then I remember he started telling me, yeah, I don't remember much because I was out, but I just remember telling him that I needed a change in my life. And after that time, that's when I started actually being convicted, and the Lord impressed in my heart where I needed to go.
You told me that you challenged God.
Yeah.
That's the big one. You challenged him. What did you challenge him with?
I actually remember telling him, like, Lord, I know that you exist, but I don't know you know. And because when I was younger, I had given my life to Christ twice, but I fell off because of music, friends, and so on and so forth. And I remember saying, the reason why I want to give you a shot or a try is because there's so many things that I had to change about my life that I actually like, which was drinking, partying, being with friends, drugs, and all that kind of stuff. And I just didn't know how not to do these things because that's what I more or less now had a system of doing. So I remember telling him that, you know, I just give you my life and just guide me through what you have to do. But I need to find you. People talk about you. Many actually misrepresent you, but I need to find you. So that's, you know, I asked him to just guide me to the path of righteousness.
And where did he lead you?
I actually, through her cousin Manny, I remember sometimes for family get-togethers, he would not show up because we used to actually do a lot of things on Saturday. He would not show up because it was Saturday. And I'm like, man, I need this guy here because he was actually one of the only persons that understood me. He was also looking into conspiracy theory prior to that. So when I used to come to him with an idea or something new that I found, he'd be like, yes. And it was nice knowing that you have someone to relate with. And I was like, you know what? I always see him happy also. I want to know more or less about his church because I didn't know what Seventh-day Adventist was. I knew that he was a Seventh-day Adventist, but I never looked into it. To me, it was only Catholics, Pentecostals, and non-denominational because my dad was a non-denominational deacon and my mom was Pentecostal. Prior to that, we were Catholics. So I didn't know what was Seventh-day Adventist. So all these things were going through my mind. And I remember one night, I had said, Lord, please, you know, if you want me to do or have what he has, you know, show me where I need to go. And he was going to church like all the way in the city somewhere. I was living here in Florida, living here in Louisiana. So for me to go to his church, it was kind of off. I went a couple times with him, but I remember just that night I was depressed and I was just tired of life altogether. A lot of times I thought about, you know, suicide and all that kind of stuff. And I remember Googling nearby Seventh-day Adventist church, and I ended up going to a church here in English, SDA church. And I remember that night, but no, this following night I went to the service. It was a prayer meeting. I remember it's Wednesday. Yeah, it was on Wednesday. What happened to me was on Tuesday, and I just walked in and sat at the back. I didn't know people were noticing me. I just wanted to see what it was all about. And all of a sudden, they were sharing their testimonies, telling people they get out and do your testimony, what's going on. And then they saw me in the back, kind of like more or less tearing up. And actually, I was crying because I felt like the Holy Spirit just take over me. It was like, this is where you belong. This is where I need you. And from there on, I got up and I said, listen, this is where, at that time, actually, I lost my job. So I got up and I told them my situation. They were like, praise God, you know, this is your home. And I just felt a peace that I never felt in my life ever again, ever before. And I just wanted more, so I continued to go, and from there on, that's when I became a Seventh-day Adventist. Well, I professed Seventh-day Adventist. I hadn't gotten baptized. Actually, when I got baptized that time, that was after, and I got baptized with someone who knew about Seventh-day Adventists, and he had a church that he was establishing, but it was a non-denominational type, and but it was based on the Bible, pure Bible. Yeah.
So that's when your journey began.
Yeah, that's when my journey began.
Your journey began and you started to study the Bible. And then Melissa, tell us about you, because at this point he has an encounter. I think you went alone to the church?
Yeah, I went alone and I actually started reading the Bible myself, so I understand a lot of stuff was being revealed to me that I left there behind.
So tell us, at what point did you then feel the Holy Spirit speak to you?
So while he was going to church, like how he said, I felt left behind because here I still am living in disappointment because of what happened at Living Water. And I knew I didn't speak to my cousin as much as he did. So I was kind of in the clouds. I was lost. I didn't know what was going on. I hate to say the word, but I hated him. I guess you would say I still viewed him the same. And then little by little, once he started sharing the message with me, I started opening up to it. And then I remember one day going to work and turning on the radio, and I heard a Christian song, and that's when I felt convicted. I felt like I needed to change as well. I needed to change my life, and I needed to seek God. And I shared that with him, and it all started from there.
Now, and then you can say the rest is history.
Yeah, more or less the rest of history. I started reading the Bible for myself. Now I started sharing with her, and
we got married.
Yeah, we got married.
As quick as we could.
Yeah, which I have to get to this.
Yeah.
It's such a great story. So a lot of things happened, right? They came to the Seventh-day Adventist message. There's a lot of changes that you usually make right away, like you started to keep the Sabbath.
Yeah.
This is a big one. They started to not eat pork.
Yeah,
Unclean foods. They told me that they opened the fridge and they threw everything out. Okay? But then there was a moment that you found out about fornication. Because at this point you guys were living together, but you were not married. So tell me what happened when you found out that you were living in sin.
Well, so now since I asked the Lord to actually speak to me, I felt Him actually guiding me to everything I was asking Him. I knew that I needed to get married right away, so I told my wife. She wanted a big wedding, and I was like, no, we don't have time for months and whatever, we just have to do it right away.
The funny thing was that we were planning a wedding already, and for some reason we planned it like about 4 or 5 times, and then it was always canceled for some reason. Now I know that it was God also guiding us that way, but we ended up, when we found out about fornication, we got married that same month. We went to the courthouse, we made our appointment, and we got married in a week's time.
Right away.
We found out about, like the mayor said, we found out about the health message. We cleaned our fridge out, no hesitation. The day that we found out about the Sabbath, or once we were convicted about the Sabbath, I called my job and I told them I'm not working Sabbath anymore. If you have a problem with it, fire me. And that's just basically how we started our walk. It was the Lord said and we did.
So you see the desarrollo of the parable? They found the treasure, they sold everything they had, which is really, you started to keep the Sabbath, you didn't care if you lost your job, you stopped eating foods that you probably liked a lot.
Yeah, and I actually, at that time, since I had said that I lost my job, I found a job. Well, I was searching for a job, but my motive was, I can't work on Saturday. So if you're gonna take me into your workplace, I can't work past 5 o'clock on Fridays because it's preparation day, so you need some time to get home and do all your things. And on Saturdays, I couldn't work. So many doors were shut, but I had a faith that the Lord knew what He was doing because He was already doing many things in my life and cleansing me. Because this life, believe it or not, is a life of self-denial. And there's a lot of things that we have to unlearn. So the world teaches you one thing, but the Word of God says something else, and you have to go to the right side, which is the Word of God.
Now, what advice would you have for our young people as we're closing up? Because there were people in your lives that thought you were a little crazy.
I was just about to mention that.
They thought you were a little crazy.
Yeah.
Because it just like
Changes
the
were
parable.
so fast that they couldn't comprehend.
You know, so, and the world views us as probably a little crazy too, because we do, it is self-denial. It is self-denial, and the world is all about self-gratification. So we are foreign to them, we're aliens to them. And so when they look at us, they're like, what are you doing? You only have one life to live, which is the motto that exists now. And as young people, and I gotta throw up this picture. This is Jeff. How old are you over here on the left?
On the left, I was 18. No. I think I was like 17-ish.
17
like
with the bling on your name.
With on the right side. On the right side, I was a little bit more mature, but still, like, you can tell in my eyes, I was super. And it says that I was already 21, 22, and as you can tell, that was my face of darkness.
Yeah, because as young people, this is what we see on a daily basis. There's, we think that there's happiness outside of the church. We look at this and we want to have it, we want to be it. But knowing his story, you see the smile and you see, I have to say kind of like the felt-looking face. We know what was inside of him and what was inside of him.
Yeah, that picture, the one on the left, that was one of my face smiles, because I remember when I took it, I got a whole bunch of comments. That was when MySpace was alive. And people were saying, wow, you're finally smiling, I can't believe it. And I'm like, yeah, it was fake.
So
at that time I had a lot of money because I was working. I was getting paid like $15 an hour doing nothing. Had my own apartment, 16 years old. 17, 18. Own apartment, a whole bunch of shoes, all the Jordans that you can think of. Had friends that came over and slept over, was drinking and doing my own thing. But I was living a life of emptiness. I still felt it, even though I had all these worldly possessions and things that my friends envied and wanted.
how many, I'm going to ask a question, my young people, how many of you were raised Seventh-day Adventists? Alright, I think we are privileged because we are taught that the treasure does exist and it is there for us. So why a lot of us are leaving the church, that's something that we as a church really do have to have a serious discussion about. And I would like your advice, because you are someone who is looking for the treasure and you found the treasure, and we are privileged young people who know the treasure, yet we are leaving it behind. So what advice do you have for our young people, especially those that think that there might be something better outside? Is there really something better out there for us? Is there something that we're missing? Because I think a lot of what happens, and when I was young too, I left the church. I left the church for 10 years, and I left the church because God and I we clashed a lot. And so I really thought that there was something better out there. I thought that there was an emptiness that could be filled out there, because you see these pictures and you see these people that tend to be happy. And sometimes, a lot of times in the church, there's really not a whole lot of happiness at times. There's a lot of conflict in churches, unfortunately, a lot. And so what advice do you have for the people who are contemplating of leaving this message, of thinking